I confronted my childhood friend about her disrespectful behavior, but she spread lies to everyone, even her English teacher, and now I'm the villain. I, female 19, have a childhood friend, female 17, who has been a part of my life since we were babies. We've shared countless memories and have always been considered close, like sisters. However, throughout our lives, she has always carried a bit of an attitude, and it never helped that her parents often covered for her behavior. Even when she was clearly in the wrong, they would insist others apologize to her instead. As an only child, she rarely faced consequences, and I often played along to keep the peace, even when it bothered me. When I turned 18, my perspective started to shift. I realized that I didn't have to endure disrespectful behavior just to maintain a friendship. I have been in a long-distance relationship with my boyfriend for 4 years now. He visits me multiple times a year, and we've worked hard to make our relationship strong despite the distance. During Christmas 2023, his family flew over to spend the holidays with us. My childhood friend and her parents were also invited. While I was excited to have everyone together, a couple of incidents left me feeling disrespected. My friend constantly inserted herself into conversations between my family and my boyfriend's family, even when it was clear she wasn't part of the discussion. I tried to brush it off, thinking it was just her way of trying to fit in, but it felt invasive. Then summer 2024 came around. While nothing catastrophic happened, there were a few questionable behaviors that once again rubbed me the wrong way. It became harder for me to ignore these patterns, but I still tried to keep the peace. She also joined us for New Year's Eve, where my boyfriend was present as well. During the celebration, I noticed how disengaged she was. She spent most of the evening on her phone, barely making any effort to join conversations or participate in activities. I found it difficult to connect with her, and it became evident that we didn't have much in common anymore. After New Year's, I had planned a small gathering with a few close friends. I hadn't invited my childhood friend since she was supposed to head home. However, my mom accidentally mentioned it in passing, and she decided to stay. I was frustrated. It felt uncomfortable having someone present who knew they weren't originally invited. My other friends, aware of the previous issues I had experienced, kept a noticeable distance from her. By the first week of February, I couldn't hold my feelings in anymore. I wanted to address the situation calmly and maturely. I decided to write her a message expressing my feelings. I kept it respectful, writing 2 paragraphs explaining how her actions had made me feel disregarded and why it was causing me to drift away from her. I emphasized that I still cared about her and saw her as a sister, but I needed her to understand my perspective. I mentioned that I would never treat her that way and only wanted to have an open conversation about it. To my disappointment, she never responded. Instead, I later discovered through a mutual friend that she had spread the story to numerous people. She told her friends, her talking stage, her English teacher, my cousin, her parents, and even my other cousin's parents. Not only did she exaggerate the situation, but she also twisted the narrative to portray me as the villain. For instance, she claimed that my boyfriend's parents were the ones engaging her in conversations during Christmas, justifying her behavior, when in reality, she simply inserted herself without invitation. This betrayal hurt deeply. I opened up to her because I valued our friendship and wanted to salvage it. Instead, she chose to invalidate my feelings and publicly humiliate me. I'm left questioning whether I did the right thing by speaking up. So, am I the a-hole for expressing my feelings and trying to address the issues in my friendship? Story 2. I fired my baby's nanny after her TikTok went viral. She mocked me in the caption, ignored our privacy rules, and now everyone says I overreacted. I, 29 female, and my husband, 31 male, have a 6-month-old baby, Lily. We hired a nanny, Mia, 24 female, about 3 months ago. After an extensive search, we chose Mia because she seemed great. She was warm, experienced, and had glowing references. Lily seemed to love her, giggling and squealing every time Mia walked through the door. We trusted her completely, which is why what happened next hit me so hard. Last week, I was on my lunch break at work, scrolling through TikTok like I usually do to relax. That's when I came across a video that made my stomach drop. It was Mia, in our living room, holding Lily and dancing around to some viral song. At first, I thought, okay, cute, whatever. But then I read the caption. When the baby's mom thinks I'm just here to work, but really I'm here to live my best life. #nanny life, #baby love. I couldn't believe it. The caption felt incredibly disrespectful, like she was mocking me for trusting her. Plus, I never gave her permission to post videos of Lily online. While Lily's face wasn't shown directly, it was mostly the back of her head. It was still very clearly my child in my home. I showed the video to my husband that evening. He was just as uncomfortable as I was. The caption seemed to imply she wasn't taking her job seriously, and the thought of our baby being used for social media clout without our consent was unsettling. We decided we needed to confront Mia. The next day, I asked Mia to stay a few minutes after her shift. I calmly brought up the video and explained why it made us uncomfortable. Mia looked genuinely surprised. She quickly explained that she hadn't thought it was a big deal since Lily's face wasn't visible, and said she was just trying to share her nanny journey online. I told her I understood that people often post things without thinking, but as parents, we were firm about not wanting Lily on social media. We had even mentioned our privacy preferences when she was hired. The caption, though, really stung. I asked her why she felt the need to write something so passive-aggressive. Mia insisted that the caption was meant to be lighthearted and joked that it's part of the nanny culture on TikTok. Apparently, there are tons of similar videos where nannies share glimpses of their day and poke fun at the experience. I told her that we didn't find it amusing. It felt disrespectful and unprofessional. She apologized profusely and even offered to delete the video on the spot. She said she hadn't meant to hurt us and promised to never post anything about Lily again. She also mentioned how much she loved caring for Lily and how this job was incredibly important to her. Despite her apology, I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal. Our trust had been broken, and the fact that she thought it was okay to post a video like that without permission deeply concerned me. What if she had shown Lily's face? What if someone online recognized our house? The internet can be a dangerous place, and we didn't want to take any risks. After a long conversation with my husband, we decided it was best to let Mia go. When I told her, she broke down in tears. She pleaded for a second chance and reiterated that she would never do anything like that again. But by that point, I had already made up my mind. I needed to prioritize Lily's safety and our family's comfort. Since then, some of my friends have suggested I overreacted. They think Mia made a simple mistake, apologized sincerely, and should have been given a second chance. They argue that it wasn't like Lily's identity was exposed, and that I could have set stricter boundaries moving forward. A couple of my mom friends, however, completely supported my decision. They said they'd be furious if someone posted their child online without permission. Mia also sent me a long message a few days later, again apologizing and asking if there was any way to regain my trust. I didn't respond, not because I wanted to be cruel, but because I genuinely felt there was no going back. Now I'm left wondering, did I act too harshly? Should I have handled it differently? Or was I justified in standing my ground? Mia was paid well above the average rate for nannies in our area. We also provided her with paid time off and flexible hours. She signed an agreement when she started, which included a section about privacy and not posting any photos or videos of Lily without our explicit permission. We had spoken in the past about our discomfort with social media when it came to Lily, especially since we don't post her on our own accounts. The video had several hundred views before Mia took it down, which made me even more uneasy. So, am I the a-hole for firing my baby's nanny over a TikTok video? Story 3. I kicked my jobless brother-in-law out after he turned my house into a messy man cave, ate my kids' snacks, and refused to help. Now my wife won't talk to me. So here's the situation. My brother-in-law, let's call him Mark, lost his job about a month ago. He's been struggling to find a new one, and his savings are running thin. My wife, his sister, is really close to him, and she's been worried sick about him. Last week, she suggested that Mark move in with us temporarily until he gets back on his feet. At first, I was hesitant. We have a small house, and we've got 2 young kids who already take up most of our space and energy. But my wife was really pushing for it, saying families should help each other out, and I didn't want to seem like the bad guy, so I reluctantly agreed. Mark moved in 3 days ago, and it's been a nightmare. He's messy, loud, and doesn't lift a finger to help around the house. He stays up late playing video games, which keeps the kids awake, and he's already eaten all the snacks I bought for my daughter's school lunches. When I tried to talk to him about it, he just shrugged and said, "Relax, man. I'm going through a tough time." Yesterday, things came to a head. I came home from work to find Mark sitting on the couch, surrounded by empty beer cans, while my wife was in the kitchen cooking dinner. The kids were running around like crazy, and the house was a complete mess. I lost it. I told Mark he needed to start pulling his weight or find somewhere else to stay. He got defensive and said I was being unreasonable, that I didn't understand what he was going through. My wife got upset with me, saying I was being too harsh and that Mark just needed some time to adjust. But I'm at my wit's end. I work long hours, and the last thing I need is another person to take care of. I told my wife that Mark had to leave by the end of the week, and now she's not speaking to me. But let me give you a bit more background. Mark has always been a bit irresponsible. This isn't the first time he's lost a job. Over the years, he's had a series of short-term jobs, none of which he's kept for more than a few months. He blames his bosses, coworkers, or the job itself every time something goes wrong. While I sympathize with the challenges of unemployment, it's hard to ignore the pattern. I also think it's worth mentioning that Mark doesn't seem particularly motivated to find work. Since he moved in, I haven't seen him fill out a single job application. He's not networking or attending interviews. Instead, he spends most of his time glued to the TV or his phone. When I suggested he use our Wi-Fi to browse job postings, he brushed me off, saying he needed a break before he could focus on his future. It's not just the lack of job hunting that's frustrating. Mark is making zero effort to contribute around the house. My wife and I both work full-time, and we're juggling the responsibilities of raising our kids. We come home to dishes piled in the sink and clutter everywhere. Mark doesn't offer to help with meals, laundry, or even basic tidying up. I wouldn't expect him to act like a live-in housekeeper, but picking up after himself doesn't seem like too much to ask. The kids are also affected by his presence. They adore their uncle, but his late-night gaming sessions keep them awake. Our youngest has been extra cranky in the mornings because he's not getting enough sleep. I even caught Mark letting the kids play violent video games that my wife and I explicitly don't allow. My wife's defense of Mark has put a strain on our marriage. She keeps saying that he's family, and that family sticks together through tough times. I understand that. I've supported Mark in the past, offering him advice and even loaning him money, which he never paid back. I know she loves her brother, and I'm not trying to be heartless, but I can't ignore the toll this is taking on our household. When I confronted Mark about the empty beer cans, it wasn't just about the mess. It was about the complete lack of respect he's shown for our home. I pointed out that my wife was already overwhelmed cooking dinner while he lounged around. He responded with a dismissive, "I'll clean it up later." But he never did. That's when I lost my temper. I told him he needed to contribute or leave. I said it firmly, but not aggressively. Mark accused me of being unsupportive and treating him like a burden. My wife chimed in saying I wasn't giving him enough grace. Now, the atmosphere in the house is tense. My wife has barely spoken to me, and Mark is avoiding me altogether. I feel like the villain for wanting peace in my own home. But at the same time, I don't think it's unreasonable to expect a grown man to be responsible for himself. So, am I the a-hole for refusing to let my brother-in-law stay at my house after he lost his job?